So you guys want part 2? Last time on Lore 101Z, we tackled part 1 of the lore of every Warframe. Specifically, we gave a recap of the main events you gotta know in order to understand most of the Warframe stories, as well as talked about the Warframes that don't really have a ton of lore to their name. And now that leaves us with one group left, the full lore section. From here on, every frame has at least a somewhat fleshed out story, at least more than the lore lights. And what better way to start than with the closest thing we have to a ninja in a game supposedly about them.
Oh, stealth mode.
Ash is an assassin, plain and simple, utilizing smoke bombs, shuriken, and copyright infringement. His story comes to us via the Lavarian, an in-game museum that contains many of the tales we're going to be talking about here. While Warframes were sometimes considered myths or even boogeymen in Orokin society, Ash was actually chosen to be the patron saint of a little institution called the Scoria. The Scoria was a school, but instead of teaching ethics and science, it taught people how to be political assassins. Because of course the Orokin made an entire school for that, and I'm not going to be making any further jokes about it for fear that my FBI agent is watching. Hi, Carl. Those chosen to enter the Scoria were given a black jewel placed between their eyes that would suppress their memories of their previous lives, full-on Shadowheart style. As their mantra states, you are forever the Scoria. The Scoria is forever you. We follow two brothers in the school, Dom and Pt.2. One day, Dom is sent out on a mission and gets captured by his target. Failure in the Scoria means getting expelled from life. So two people are sent to eliminate Dom as well as his original target. Those two people are his brother Pilio and Ash being sent as an overseer. Throughout this tale, Ash has an extremely mysterious vibe. He's quiet, methodical, impossible to read, a blank slate that only dishes out effective slaughter. My favorite line comes when Ash and Pilio are surrounded by 50 guards at their target's location. It reads, "You are immortal. One mistake makes that otherwise." Ash had never made a mistake. Here were 50. Ash quickly corrects those 50 mistakes. When Ash and Pilio finally reach their target, they find a middle-aged man sharing a glass of wine with Dom, who's missing his black memory jewel. The middle-aged man is revealed to be Dom and Pilio's father, whose sons were stolen away from him at some point, and now all he wants is to get them back. Because of course with a story involving someone named Dom, it's all about
family.
Pilio's gem burns as he tries to push the memories away. He questions Ash, his idol, trying to figure out what's going on, but without a sign or warning, Ash tears the black gem from Pilio's forehead, allowing the memories to come flooding back in. And it's at this point that Leo Danas is able to finally embrace his sons once again. Ash stands there, unmoving. We don't know why he did it, why he let the boys go free. Maybe out of sympathy, or maybe he didn't even know that the Scoria was kidnapping people to begin with. But what we do know is that when the fall of the Orokin came, he was the one to sink his blades into the leaders of the Scoria, reducing everything that they had built to nothing but ash. Oh no, a giant asteroid is about to hit Earth and destroy us all. There's nothing we can do. Nah, I'd win. What do you mean? You ever seen that scene in One Punch Man with the meteor? I'm not sure Oh my god, he tanked the meteor. Yeah! This is Atlas, a brawler who likes rocks about as much as Venture from Overwatch, and I'm pretty sure they eat them. At some point during the Old War, there was a cult called Temple Telemon. They were like, hey, someday a big stone destroyer is gonna show up and destroy Earth. The Orokin were like, yeah, right. Which, like, I kinda get, but you're also living in a universe with magic space children and a dude that summons water tentacles as one of his main moves. Like, sky's the limit. But nevertheless, the cultists pulled a Thanos, said, fine, I'll do it myself, found an asteroid, strapped a bunch of rocket engines to it, and then sent it hurtling towards Earth, which I feel like is cheating to the whole prophecy thing, but whatever. The Orokin had many forces they could have sent to deal with it, but they only sent one. Atlas. The idea was that with Atlas's rock-bending powers, he would be able to not only defeat the cultists, but also their ideals. Fight rocks with rocks. Atlas arrived and just started tearing into the cultists that were defending the asteroid, some of their petrified remains still able to be found to this day. At some point though, the asteroid was getting closer and closer to Earth, which prompted Atlas to put his hands and his head down on its surface. The cultists thought he was surrendering and began to mock him. But he hadn't surrendered. Instead, he was listening to the rock to figure out where to punch it to blow it up. and then he punched it and blew it up. I feel like Toph would call BS. And then his body kind of floated around for several hundred years until it was intercepted by a zombie spaceship called the Jordis Golem, and you have to beat that golem at the end of the Jordis Precept quest in order to unlock his blueprint. Atlas has had a wild time.
It sparkles and shimmers, it shines and delights. I must have it for my nest.
Okay guys, we gotta run. This biobomb is about to go off. No, you are become crystals now. What are you? Citrine, she does crystals, shoots crystals, protects people with crystals. Her and Atlas probably go geode collecting. During the Old War, she was assigned to be the guardian of 2 Orokin engineers that were in love with each other. Belric, a master foundry operator, and Rania, a renowned studier of the void. Remember how the Orokin biobombed Deimos to keep the sentients away? Well, Belric and Rania were actually the ones who made that bomb and set it off. They couldn't do it remotely, so they blew it up knowing that they would be caught in the blast radius. To keep them from turning infested though, Citrine, as their guardian, used her powers to transform the 2 of them into a set of crystals. Doing so came at the cost of Citrine's own life. Years later, after the reawakening of the Tenno, some smugglers found these crystals, but found that when separated, a void portal would form between the 2 of them, meaning that wherever the jewels are, they will always be linked together. The power of love do be twisting the laws of nature. Remains of Citrine can be found when doing missions to defend these 2 crystals, representing how she still wants to protect the couple even though she's no longer there. Also, Tyle Regor, a Grineer scientist, is trying really hard to crack those crystals open because that's Orokin genetic code in there that could be used to improve the Grineer. He's also the one that accidentally woke the sentients up again. Why are there so many scientists in this game that are incapable of making a good decision?
Behold, the Tout Goth has left her house.
Wow, another story about a Warframe guarding a couple. I hope this one has a happier ending. Oh my god, it's worse. It's so much worse. Channeling the powers of the grave and the twisted specters of faithful steeds, Dagath's basically a goth horse girl. Thing is, she didn't always look like this, and that hole in her head, that's not by design. Before becoming a Warframe, Dagath was a Dax cavalry woman, the Dax essentially being elite fighters that largely served as kind of bodyguards to the Orokin. Dagath herself served as a bodyguard for an Orokin couple, and was also their secret lover, more tonight on TMZ. The couple never called Dagath by her actual name though. In fact, we don't even know Dagath's original name. The name Dagath was given to her much later down the line, and we'll get into that in a sec. At some point, the couple would give Dagath a horse as a gift, but forbade her from naming it. The reason for this was the same reason why they wouldn't call Dagath by her own name. Apparently, names give someone power. What that expressly means, we're not really told. But Dagath formed a bond with this horse to the point where she couldn't help but name it Rakali. Once the couple found out, they reacted with thoughtfulness and maturity. Oh, come on, it's the Orokin, they executed the horse. But in the process of doing so, they also accidentally injured Dagath. They weren't able to save her by normal medical means, so in comes everyone's favorite podcaster, Ballas, saying he can make Dagath live forever. And by that, he meant he could turn her into a Warframe, specifically one that was molded to have a pretty little smile on its face forever. This makes me realize Ballas would 100% be the type of guy to say that women need to smile more, and trust me, we're not done with him in this video yet. While the couple was initially happy to have Dagath back, they soon tired of her because she was essentially just a lifeless doll now, standing around and following basic orders. This is what makes me think she was a first-gen Warframe that was like pacified by the Tenno, but didn't have a Tenno specifically assigned to her, because she probably would have been a lot more lively if that was the case, and she would have had an issue with what came next. Since the couple didn't like Dagath anymore, they wanted to get rid of her. But instead of, I don't know, sending her back to Ballas to fight in the Old War, they instead took her to a facility, strapped her down to a table, and shot a disillusion beam through her face. Yeah, that's what that hole is, and she probably feels that at all times. The couple thought their job was done, dumped the body, and went home. But Dagath survived because the indomitable human spirit, I guess. Now, remember me briefly mentioning the transference bolts, the things that kind of helped keep the Warframes a bit in line and kept them from acting out? Well, in the process of blasting her head, the couple also probably destroyed that bolt, meaning Dagath was off her reins. Speaking of reins, in her lucid state, Dagath was able to summon the ghostly apparition of her horse, Rakali, and went to go pay the Orokin couple a visit. And let's just say she got some inspiration on what to do to them from the movie Face Off. Afterwards, she wandered aimlessly for years until she randomly encountered a woman on the night of Nabarus. Nabarus is a substitute for Halloween within the Warframe universe, and it's custom that if you meet someone on Nabarus night, you are required to give them a gift. The woman had no physical things to give this Warframe, so she gave it her own name, which was Dagath. And without her name, that woman was only known by grandmother from that point onward. Yep, that grandmother, the same one from Deimos and the Andrade family. And from that point forward, Dagath would continue to wander, a name finally bestowed upon her, her ghostly horse by her side, until years later when we the Tenno would make a copy of her from that point forward. Also, post-production Korg voiceover here. Apparently the name Dagath means the mirror that accuses, and somehow her lack of a face can act as a mirror that can show other people their sins, like a sci-fi penance stare, which I just thought was really cool. Okay, bye.
That tank thing's getting back up. Please, these just don't die.
These two are a double feature because one leads directly into the other. However, before we talk about either of them, we have to talk about something called the Unum. The Unum is this big Orokin tower that can be found next to the merchant village Cetus on Earth. It was one of the last Orokin towers to survive the Old War. Also, it's alive. That tower is one big body, and underneath that shell are miles and miles of living flesh. Now, I don't know if the Orokin gave the tower life by design, like this is just how all Orokin towers were, or if the Unum was a separate entity that somehow fused with the tower several hundreds of years ago. What I do know is that this tower is the protector of Cetus, and it can do a lot of stuff. It can talk telepathically, it can put up shields, it can apparently read the future a bit, and can even stop time in selected areas for a bit. It's like an ADT, home security system on space steroids. Also, most importantly, it bleeds something called Temple Kuva. Kuva is essentially this mystical space Kool-Aid originating from the void that can also do a bunch of random stuff. And sometime during the fall of the Orokin, this big sentient came down to Earth and was like, I'ma fight that tower. Then a Warframe named Gara, wielder of hyper bulletproof glass, stepped up and was like, no you ain't, and then teamed up with the Unum to try and take the sentient down. Also, for the longest time, I thought it was pronounced Gara, like the Naruto character, and now my brain is having an existential crisis. Now, the sentient was very powerful, but it was blinded by daylight, meaning it only attacked at night and hid during the day. The Unum instructed the people of Cetus to harvest some of its Kuva blood and feed that to the local wildlife. Doing so would allow the Unum to see through their animal eyes to help locate the enemy sentient, again, Kuva's wild. This plan backfired though. Remember during the recap when I said that the sentients have a weakness to void energy? Well, because of some stuff that happened, that void weakness led the entire sentient population to becoming sterile. None of them can naturally reproduce. They can make little tiny fragment drones from themselves, but they can't create like a new big sentient like Hunhow. The sentient fighting Gara in the Unum is like, hey, this Temple Kuva stuff is pretty powerful. If I ate enough of it, maybe it could fix my sterilization. Because that's what I learned in Biology 101. Sterile? Just drink some space blood. No wonder I failed that class. The sentient gears up for one final fight to take over the Unum. To prevent this, Gara took a page out of Corvex's book by putting a bomb inside her chest and then pulling in Independence Day. The resulting explosion would destroy Gara as well as blast the sentient's body into pieces. I do like how in the modern day, Heck, who's like a Grenier general at one point, is like, I need more glass. It is the key to a power I've never seen. The power to kill a sentient. I'm just like, bro, it wasn't glass. It was a bomb. I feel like one of these options is a lot more believable. The shattered remains of the sentient would form into the big sentient eidolons that still roam the plains outside of Cetus to this very day, still hopelessly looking for their other blasted fragments. Those eidolons are way less of a threat than a massive sentient though, so the day was saved for a bit. See, when Gara's bomb went off, it created this big body of water that I believe is called Gara Tote Lake. I might be wrong. And after some time, the spirit of that same big sentient that she fought would begin to rise out of the lake every single night, which is a problem. This prompted a Warframe known as the Warden to arrive. Every night, the Warden would push back the big sentient's weird ghost tendrils, just like Gara had pushed it back many, many years ago when it was still alive. That is until one night when the Warden did something a bit dumb. Instead of attacking the tentacles, he decided to touch one for some reason. Really bad idea, because the moment he did that, the tendril latched onto him and began using him as an anchor to bring the sentient back to life. So life lesson, don't touch ghost tentacles, or tentacles in general, unless it's calamari, because that's pretty good. But give it to the warden, he learned from Gara, because when that tendril tried using him as an anchor, he said, "No, you ain't," and jumped in the lake to seal the sentient with him. Eventually, such a long period of time in close contact with that sentient infused the warden with eldritch entities, creating the spectral haunted warframe we all know as the Revenant. Sometime after reawakening, the Tenno are able to free Revenant, collect his blueprint, and bring the Cetus saga to a close. Hey, what's a double feature without a double feature of double features? My brain hurts. This is Gauss, this is Grendel, and together they form Warframe's #1 bromance. Gauss the type of bro to sprint over with 2 stuffed crust Papa John's pizzas when he hears that someone broke up with his bro Grendel. Grendel the type of bro to attend every one of Gauss's track meets, hyping his boy up like nobody can, even though he has no idea what the rules are. He just knows Gauss is gonna kick ass and that the stadium hot dogs slap. Yes, canonically in lore, Grendel and Gauss are both really good friends, often accompanying each other on missions. It's not exactly clear if it's the Tenno controlling them or if it's the Warframes themselves. Either way, homeboys. And if you couldn't tell, Gauss's main thing is speed, while Grendel's main thing is om nom nom. Dude literally rolls around like a meatball and has a mouth for a stomach. Hello again, Sukuna. But anyways, each of them have their own tale. Gauss's story is much shorter and describes him being sent to take back a ancient fortress tower that had been taken over by some insurgents during the Old War. The tower had powerful defenses and mines strewn about the bottom that nobody could get through until the Roadrunner showed up. He opens by hitting a bunker so hard that it shatters, pulling out some of the weapons from inside to use as his sidearms, and then proceeds to blitz through the mines since he's too fast for the explosions. Needless to say, the insurgents didn't last long. Grendel's story has some more meat to it though, in more ways than one. Previously, I mentioned that Ballas was an executor, a member of the Orokin Supreme Court. During the fall of the Orokin, the 7 executors were a prime target for the Tenno. In Grendel's story, we see Executor Karish flee to the planet Europa and take over the city of Rita. While in control, he acts the exact way you'd expect an Orokin to, full-on French Revolution, having lavish feasts while everyone in the city starves. But someone else is about to have a meal of their own. Grendel and Gauss descend on the city, breaking into it pretty easily. Karish watches as all the other Orokin he brought with him get turned into a mukbang for Grendel. This understandably prompts Karish to run screaming into the hills, but Grendel is close on his tail, Gauss staying outside the city to make sure no patrols come back in to ruin his bro's feast. As Grendel literally rolls throughout the city streets after Karish, he rejuvenates the populace, letting them know that their tyranny is over. Eventually, he finds Karish holed up in a cave and, well, proceeds to send him to the void that is his stomach. The burp that followed was legendary.
I have crippling depression.
I'm ready to be sad. You ready to be sad? Let's be sad together! To start, we're not actually gonna talk about Harrow. Instead, we're gonna talk about a kid named Rel. Rel was one of the other kids that boarded the Zariman ship. Unfortunately, he had a bit of a rough time making friends. He's at least autistic coded, meaning he has trouble identifying emotions, has repetitive actions, and was often overwhelmed by too much noise or sensations. The other kids on the Zariman would often make fun of him for this. Luckily, Rel had a very loving mother named Kay who would help him identify emotions using some cards with emotions drawn on them and help him drown out the extra noise and sensations by using a tuning fork-like device. What a great parent-child relationship. I hope that nothing horrible happened. Oh no. Okay, the Zariman might have gone lost to the void, and Kay might be insane like all the rest of the adults, but what are the chances that she will find Rel specifically out of all the other people on the ship? Oh no. Oh no. Rel doesn't even flinch. He doesn't miss a beat. He just recognizes, you're not my mom right now. You're something else, and ends her. Okay, that was traumatizing, but at least Rel can now hold up and stay safe with the other kids. Are you kidding me? Give the guy a break. Okay, so the Zariman is out of the void now, and Rel has void powers like the rest of the kids, so at least he'll finally now be included. No? The Orokin are casting him out because he's weird. The other kids can barely control their void powers, and at least Rel has a little bit of a leg up given his emotional control. And you're casting him out because he's a bit weird and potentially unfit for combat? If there was an A through D multiple choice test, the Orokin would pick E every single time, wouldn't they? So yeah, Rel didn't really have the best start, but don't worry because it gets worse. Because next, this dude decides to take on an Eldritch Void horror to save everyone. During our recap, I mentioned a mysterious Void doppelganger that first appeared during Big Al's first trip into the Void and showed up again to give the Tenno their Void powers. And while most of the kids on the ship didn't even notice the entity, Rel did and knew it could be dangerous. Cause yeah, vaguely threatening Void demon that makes strange deals with stranded kids. There's probably some shenanigans afoot. And from that point forward, he devoted himself to learning more about this mysterious entity and the potential dangers it posed, eventually naming it the Man in the Wall, or Wally. Thankfully, two things happen. One, before being kicked out by the Orokin, Rel was able to snag the Warframe Harrow, whose whole chain and self-inflicted pain aesthetic definitely fits with Rel's tortured life. Number two, Rel was taken in by the Red Veil, a faction you can find in game that seeks to cleanse the origin system of all corruption using fire and chaos. They considered Rel to be a great teacher, readily learning from him about the potential dangers of the Void, and in return, they helped him do something that might be one of the only reasons the Tenno were able to wake up after the big sleep. See, after the fall of the Orokin, Rel somehow found out that the Tenno were being put to sleep in the Void by the Lotus. She didn't know Wally was a thing, so she didn't have much of a reason to worry. Rel recognized that if he did nothing, the Man in the Wall would be able to attack the defenseless sleeping Tenno. So he and the Red Veil performed a ritual to keep Wally at bay. In exchange, Rel would be the one to essentially hold the door closed on him as long as he could. And he did that for hundreds of years, keeping this manifestation of madness and unknowable strength trapped within his mind, while those that discarded him lay sleeping, none the wiser. At one point, he even essentially transferred his soul into his Warframe to prolong his life. He would eventually go insane after all that time, but the fact that it took that long just shows how strong his fortitude was and how much of an absolute unit the Orokin missed out on. In the present day, the Tenno are able to lay Rel to rest at the end of the Chains of Harrow quest, finally bringing this story of pain to an end. I need a fun one. I need a fun, easy one. Who we got next? That'll work. This is Yareli. She's got like water powers and she's got this cute, graceful vibe to her. Is she like the daughter of Hydroid and Gyre or something? I don't know. So there's this underground city you can go into the game called Fortuna. It's got all these people being worked to the bone just to squeeze out a little bit more profit for their bosses. Relatable. Also, they got a banger song when you first go there. I've got it in my Spotify playlist now. A long time ago, there was this human owner named Volgran. He was using kids as employees, which is a big no-no. Yareli comes, inspires the kids to rise up, and then blasts that guy to the moon. And then she goes on to inspire the creation of K-driving, which is like space skateboarding. So it's like a Tony Hawk movie, but much wetter, and the villain isn't moving by the end. Her story gets turned into an in-universe comic book, which is rad. In the present day, the Tenno helps some more kids called the Vent Kids unlock that comic book, and then the kids sell that comic to Grandmother, the one from Dagath's story. She's apparently into comic books, which is sick. And then in exchange for that comic, she buys the vents the kids are living in so that Nef Anyo, the kids' old landlord, can't kick them out. I don't know what the writers were on when they wrote this, but it made me feel good going through it, so thanks. All right, back to depression.
Count how many sand is here, Omega. That's your first mission.
Why the fuck would you make him do that?
Inaros, Master of the Sand and #1 on Darth Vader's hit list. As you know, the Orokin had a plethora of matters that sometimes required them to take people without those people necessarily agreeing to go. And so it was with a small colony on Mars during the Old War. The people of this unnamed colony lived their lives wrought with terror as those described as the Golden Skymen regularly came down and took more and more of their children children away from them. Inaros watched this happen and hated it. Eventually, he defected, went straight to that Martian colony, and defended it against the Golden Skymen until they were forced to leave. The colonists would worship Inaros from that point forward, calling him things like the Fear Eater, the Sky Killer. Bet those looked good on his dating profile. Years later, he would return to that same colony to defend it from an infestation attack. However, this battle would take his own life. To honor him, the members of the colony entombed his body parts in a set of sacred vessels, hoping that he would one day return. That, however, did not happen, and even more years later, another attack came, this time from the Grineer, that wiped the entire colony out. Also, why is everybody gunning for this one colony? Like the Orokin, the Grineer, the Infestation? They didn't even know a Warframe was buried there. They were just like, that one, that colony right there, let's nuke it, throw a Corvex at him. There was, however, one person who survived the colony's destruction. Baro Katir, the Void Trader himself. He's a merchant who appears every couple of weeks in-game, who grew to despise Inaros for his failure to defend his childhood colony. Dude, what did you want him to do? He was completely gone. He did not clutch up in the gulag. But through the Sands of Inaros quest, Baro confronts his past and reconciles with memories of his mother, who perished during the Grineer invasion. And with his blueprint secured, the Tenno can help the King of the Sands rise again.
The hunter lays a trap for his prey.
Ivara, a huntress and a thief with a potentially bottomless quiver. Don't tell MCU Hawkeye. Her tale also comes to us from the Laverian, the museum I mentioned, in which we follow her trying to track down a Warframe-slaying man-beast known as the Myrmidon, presumably sometime during the Old War. This unknown creature is said to specifically target Warframes, those it eliminates being completely stricken from the records for being too weak. Ivara tracks down this beast alongside two other unnamed Warframes. Those other Warframes don't last long though, as upon encountering the Myrmidon, it immediately nullifies their abilities and completely vaporizes them. These are supposed to be extremely adept soldiers, but how many Warframes have just been taken out like that? And now, it was just down to the two hunters. Even with her abilities nullified though, Ivara was still very much a threat. First taking out the tech jamming her abilities, then summoning her Artemis bow, and then taking out the creature's vaporizing ray. She then stripped the creature's armor until its true face was shown to her. Its face was Orokin, something she wasn't allowed to harm. So she dragged the Myrmidon all the way back to the Executors for answers. At which point our favorite boy Ballas stepped forward and removed a piece of silver from the Myrmidon's head, immediately causing the creature to collapse on the floor. It gone, he took its battery out. Yep, the Orokin made this thing, but why? And why turn it on the Warframes? As Ballas himself states, the Myrmidon was a test. Ivara passed, her teammates did not. They shall be forgotten, she will be remembered. Such is the cruel nature of the Warframe universe. Bet that didn't add fuel to the fire of the Orokin's fall. Next up is the Origin System's #1 cat mom, it's Khora. While a lot of Khora's abilities revolve around chains and snares, her and Harrow presumably go shopping for them, one of her main abilities is to summon her faithful companion, Venari. Venari is such a big part of Khora, in fact, that Khora's lore doesn't actually have much to do with the Warframe itself and has more to do with her cat. I know this is kind of cheating, but the story we get involving Venari is so convoluted, involves so many events and characters that I just had to include it here. I'm gonna have to make it one big skit just to get through it, so here we go, the tale of Khora's cat. Hello, I am a Corpus scientist tasked with studying genetic stuff and reviving certain animals here in the Orb Vallis on Venus. Oh my gosh, it's the perfectly frozen remains of Khora's cat Venari. Khora hasn't been seen in a long time. I'm sure she won't mind if I cut into her cat a little bit to study it. Hey, I'm actually alive, and for the purpose of this skit, I can actually talk. I definitely wasn't about to do surgery on you. Neat, I'm gonna stick around for a bit in a cage, watch the people that come in here, and maybe form a bond with you. Okay. JK, bored now. I'm gonna go destroy some infested hives in the Orb Vallis. The infested hives she was talking about should be around here somewhere. Hello again. I took care of the hives and mutilated a bunch of Corpus soldiers. So that's where all the bodies came from. Well, see ya. Hold on, treat this wound I've got. I trust you or something. Alright. Just another day not committing genetic crimes. Hey, here's the hand of the Khora Warframe. Thanks. Bye now. You there, Corpus scientist. Ah, that cat there, that's the one that's been destroying all the infested hives, right? Yeah, she's been pretty helpful with that. We're gonna destroy her. Why? Wouldn't be destroying the infested be a good thing for us? We're led by a Nepo baby and constantly make bad decisions. Don't worry, Venari, this animal tranquilizer gas should stop the Corpus from getting you. Yeah, we have gas masks that stop it. You're under arrest. Damn it! Your arrest does give me the opportunity I need to escape, so bye! I'm going to be executed because I helped a space cat. Hi, I'm the Corpus scientist's assistant that hasn't been relevant until now. Hey, you're gonna help me break the scientist guy out. Works for me. Thanks for rescuing me, guys, but we gotta run. Guys, the Corpus are gaining on us. Venari, what are you doing? I'm going to sacrifice myself so you can escape. Goodbye, my friend. Wait, we were friends? Is that what this... Okay, bye. I will now dedicate the rest of my new life to finding the Khora Warframe as a way to honor that cat that kind of ruined my old life. Hey, Khora's fused body was found perfectly intact on Venus. Really? But then it was shipped off-world somewheres. Of course. Khora's gotta be on Earth here somewhere. Wait, what were those people saying about Eidolons? Is that a sentient titan? No. Oh my god, it's the blueprints for the Warframe Khora! I've been looking for these for so long! And now I'm gonna proceed to donate them to an almighty yellow computer man.
I am the almighty yellow computer man wearing the one piece of yellow clothing that I have. I appreciate the donation.
Actually, I'm going to be stealing this now. Thanks, bye!
You little...
Yeah, so anyway... Kullervo, a man with knives for days. Kullervo's lore is a weird one to cover, not because we don't have a complete story or anything, but because the story we do get might be a lie, at least the way I see it. Kullervo's whole deal is that throughout the Old War and the fall of the Orokin, he was charged with 7 crimes that eventually ended with him getting imprisoned. The crimes are as follows. First, Kullervo tried to gain the favor of an executor, one of the Orokin Supreme Court people. How? By spilling the blood of other Orokin, which is like saying, yeah, I'm gonna get a judge to like me by running some people over. He gets charged with murder. Second, when the Orokin were executing some of the Gen 1 Warframes for rebelling, Kullervo refused to help them, earning him a charge of cowardice. Before becoming a Warframe, Kullervo was apparently the child of Archimedean Anarchy, Archimedeans being the cream of the crop, top-tier scientist people. After his first 2 crimes, a group of Dax soldiers were sent to take him away. In the ensuing conflict, Kullervo accidentally sent his own mother to a farm, earning him his 3rd charge, flight from custody. If I had a nickel for every time a Warframe or Tenno whose whole vibe is self-punishment eliminated their own mother, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but why did you write it twice, D? Next, Kullervo would be charged with treason after apparently attacking a bunch of key Orokin locations as part of a bigger plot. Then he was charged with espionage because he apparently tried to corrupt the Tenno, whispering thoughts of rebellion into their ears, and this is the charge specifically that has me suspicious. Once the fall of the Orokin began, Kullervo was charged with treason again for presumably inciting everything going on, and then finally, he was charged with attempted regicide after trying to eliminate the Orokin executor that charged him with all those crimes. I'm gonna give you one guess as to who it was. Ballas, he just keeps popping up, isn't it great? Unfortunately, Kullervo failed, was captured, and then sent to be imprisoned in the Void, specifically in a place called Duviri, but that place is getting its own video. One thing to note, in the Void, there's something called conceptual embodiment. Basically, it's a rule that says strong emotions and thoughts can be given physical form in the Void. So if you really want a vanilla ice cream cone, it might just appear in your hand. It might be glowing with radiation and have a couple extra eyes growing out of it, but hey, ice cream, it's gonna make you scream for something else in a sec. Mercy. When Kullervo was sent to the Void, the guilt he felt within himself was so great that it actually conjured a prison around him, also creating a warden that looks strangely like Ballas. You can find the prison in Duviri after completing the Duviri Paradox quest, but yeah, that's where his story ends. And here's the thing, I don't think he did most of the crimes he was charged with. If you look at Kullervo's crimes alone, they paint this picture of him as like the mastermind behind the Orokin's downfall. However, some of the this stuff doesn't line up. Like his first crime, why would he think slaying a bunch of Orokin would give him favor with an executor unless he wasn't the one slaying them and was actually a scapegoat? It's possible he committed his second and third act, but the fourth act says he was constructing some bigger plot, even though it just seemed he was trying to run away from the law most of the time. And then there's the fifth crime, seeding rebellion in the minds of the Tenno. That one we know is BS because it was part of Ballas and Hunhow's plan. And Ballas is the one charging Kullervo with these crimes. You don't think Ballas is actually the one committing these crimes and then just charging Kullervo for them to seem less suspicious? It would definitely explain why Kullervo went for him during the fall of the Orokin. Let my man go, we all know he did nothing wrong. Speaking of prisons, what a segue that is, Lavos, aka another Full Metal Alchemist. He's your guy if you want to douse your enemies in suspicious fluids and whip them with snakes. Why did the description come out that way? Before becoming the transmuting badass we know, Lavos served as a warden in an Orokin prison. It was here that he was assigned to watch over one prisoner in particular, Archimedean Yavi. Yavi was arrested for trying to perform alchemy and transmutation, two powers that the Orokin were concerned would get out to the general public and allow them to gain power. What's even funnier though is that the Orokin were initially thinking of just vaporizing Yavi, but they were afraid that he might survive given his alchemy powers, so they imprisoned him instead, which is just dumb. Like, there's no harm in trying the vaporizing method. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but they were like, there's a chance it might not work, so might as well not do it at all. How did these guys make it off Earth? Anyways, as time went on, Yavi would whisper things to Lavos, but at first the things he said didn't make any sense. Also probably didn't help that Lavos was usually beating Yavi when he was trying to whisper to him. That probably escalated the communication issue. Eventually, Yavi's behaviors would become stranger and stranger. He was writing symbols on the walls, bunch of weird stuff, so the jailers were like, all right, Lavos, you gotta execute him. However, that's when it hit Lavos. The whispers, the symbols on the walls weren't the ravings of a madman, but rather teachings on evolution and healing. The day of the execution came, and Lavos used his powers to liquefy Yavi. He turned into soup. At first, the jailers were happy, but then they noticed something horrifying. The Yavi soup was moving, shifting, changing into the form of a snake that wound up Lavos's arm. At the same time, another snake emerged from Lavos's other arm, made from his own flesh. Oh yeah, those jailers weren't gonna be living for very long. The only person that survived that day was a janitor, the one to relay this tale to us. In conclusion, yes, the arm snakes do have lore.
And your former present becomes the past, which can't now be changed by your new future.
Exactly.
The next three Warframes are going to be part of what I like to call the Granum Saga. During our recap, I mentioned a guy named Parvos Granum, the original leader of the Corpus, the Giga Chad himself on a mission to raise up the general populace using space capitalism. Well, back before the relationship between the Orokin and the Corpus soured, they were actually business partners, to the point where Parvos was able to work directly with Ballas to create a specialized Warframe that would serve as Parvos's bodyguard. Shout out to the Protea Prime trailer that dropped a little bit ago for that knowledge. I'm adding this in post. This collaboration would birth Protea, a Warframe that could bend time itself to her will. From what I can tell, Protea was extremely faithful to Parvos, her loyalty being given the ultimate test when an attempt was made on Parvos's life. See, the other leaders of the Corpus were in a constant grab for power, with one of them eventually trying to sabotage the void drive on Parvos's ship, sending his ship careening into the void in an event that should have ended him. However, Protea was on that ship too, and in the last second used her powers to create a temporal bubble in the void itself that would keep Parvos safe and essentially stop time. Yep, everything was going wrong, and she just time warped a bubble inside the void itself. Like Harrow, she maintained this bubble for a while, eventually becoming an insane specter of herself as an unfortunate side effect. In the Deadlock Protocol quest, the Tenno are able to gain access to her time bubble, known as the Granum Void, prompting her to start causing a lot of problems, even going so far as to almost destroy an entire Corpus fleet, again, all by herself. The Tenno are thankfully able to stop her while Parvos escapes back into the Origin system, but dang, she packs a punch. An epic frame for an epic dude, but the time has come to talk about somebody else. I don't have a watch. Protea, darling, rewind us a bit.
Grab the children! Save the children!
Flashback to right after Parvos was sent into the void. The founder of the Corpus suddenly disappearing understandably caused a bit of a power vacuum within the Corpus and their land holdings. Bloody land grabs and hostile takeovers of different properties start occurring throughout the Origin system almost on a daily basis, like an R-rated version of Monopoly. One of the places affected by this were the farmlands of Reshantur. At a certain point, these farmlands had lost so many adults to the constant fighting that they only had enough left to tend to the farmlands, none to defend them. That is, until Gen Z came in. The children of these lands, specifically those nearing adulthood, became inspired by the tales of a warrior named Nezha, a symbol of hope that was said to leave trails of fire in his wake. The children would train every day in a small temple, crafting makeshift spears for the day they would be needed, believing that if they fought without fear, Nezha would bless them with victory. Then the day came, Corpus soldiers arrived, the children charged, and the Corpus opened fire. It was a massacre, but not one for the kids. In the Laverian entry this story comes from, we don't see the fight itself, only the aftermath. After the next couple of days, burn marks cover the fields. The bodies of Corpus soldiers lied charred and battered. The children nowhere to be found. A Corpus surveyor asks a single remaining child what happened. The child recounted how, when the children charged, Nezha suddenly came down from the sky in his wheels of flame. He protected and healed the children, laid waste to the Corpus, and brought the children with him to serve as his celestial warriors. And so it is that the legend of Nezha, the fiery protector, continues to this very day. Last in the Granum saga, we have Sevagoth, a wielder of the shadows that probably listens to My Chemical Romance with Dagath in his off time. During the Old War, Sevagoth was the brave captain of a ship named the Tempestari. Ship? No, Hydroid, not that type of ship. Oh. Despite the intimidating appearance of its captain, the Tempestari was mostly known for doing rescue missions, saving a total of 2,017 people during its career. However, at some point, a powerful void storm came and knocked Sevagoth into the void. Before that happened, though, he commanded his shadow, essentially his partially sentient coat, to continue piloting the ship in his stead and search for his body. How does this tie in with Parvos Granum? Well, in a rather confusing way. See, at some point during its search for Sevagoth, the Tempestari apparently just kind of randomly attacked a Corpus outpost, which is extra ironic given that it was mostly known for its rescue missions. And also, if you're looking for a missing body, why are you randomly attacking things? Maybe the Corpus shot first? So let me get this straight. A Warframe's ghost coat, was piloting a spaceship powered by an eldritch entity's finger, and in the process of searching for its owner, did a drive-by on an outpost of space capitalists, and then later sent the one survivor to a time bubble in a goopy galaxy. Game of the year. For every year. The sole survivor of this attack was a Corpus captain named Vala Glorios, who makes it her mission to take down the Tempestari to avenge the sisters she lost in its attack. In the quest Call of the Tempestari, you help Sevagoth's shadow find its master's missing body, while also beating Vala Glorios and sending her to the Granum Void. And guess who just so happens to save her and make her his right-hand woman? Parvos! Afterwards, you find Sevagoth's body, collect his blueprint, and give him a Viking funeral, finally putting this legendary captain to rest.
Gunpowder, nitroglycerin, notepads, fuses, wicks, glue.
Nova. With her attacks fueled by the power of antimatter, she makes things go boom! Her Laverian story is a fun one, as it recounts a time that some space pirates were hired by an unknown third party to try and eliminate her. And it went down something like this. Okay guys, here's the plan. There's this passenger ship, right? We're gonna lure Nova onto it and then destroy the ship's antimatter core. If she wants to save all the people on it, she'll have to sacrifice herself to replace that core. She'll basically become nothing more than a battery. Easy peasy. Alright guys, the plan is going great. The antimatter core is destroyed, and now she'll have to... Hey guys. Hey Nova, we were just... Oh my god. Come with me. First of all, didn't know you could teleport. Second, why'd you put me in the reactor room? Did you know I can transfer some of my antimatter to other people? To be honest, we probably should have done more research on your abilities before this. Boop. There you go. Now you got some antimatter in you. Hope you enjoy being the ship's battery. Well, now I'll never know how One Piece ends. This story says something to me. Sometimes you don't need a super complicated plot or ultra depressing undertones. Sometimes all you need is to watch a space pirate get turned into antimatter fuel for a ship. It's the little things.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Romans, hoplites, are you ready to rumble? This is Styanax, a hero, a champion, and if you think he has enough javelins, you're wrong. His tale from the Laverian introduces us to a cult on the planet Earth led by a Corpus renegade named the Philanthropist, a man who often sought out orphans to shelter and educate them. By God, all the flags are dyed crimson. 2 kids are brought into the cult, a young girl named Arya and her older brother Darrow. Both become part of what is known as the Philanthropist's Chosen. After coming of age, all Philanthropists Chosen would go through a secret ceremony known as Ascension Day, where they would be taken to join the Philanthropist in eternal paradise. And also they would never be heard from again by anybody. By God, it's a mountain of flags. Darrow goes through this ceremony, is never heard from again, and years later, Arya does as well. She's brought into the room for the ceremony, but sees this. Well, that doesn't look like paradise. That just looks like a huge mass of infested flesh made out of the bodies of all of the other Philanthropists Chosen over the years. Apparently the Philanthropist believed Warframes to be weak, so he was trying to build something stronger that he called the Leviathan. He's also a freaking coward because he didn't want to be the one to pilot it. That was going to be Arya's job as the final one needed for this project. Arya went, screw that, and called in Styanax. Come to find out, she had been given a rescue beacon by Styanax several years ago for some reason and was told to use it if she was ever in danger. I think this counts, and Styanax did too, as he exploded through a nearby wall like the freaking Kool-Aid Man and started to fight this monster while the Philanthropist started to pilot it himself. While Styanax was a great fighter though, he wasn't making much headway on the literal thousands of merged bodies that this thing was made up of. So Arya and him rallied the minds of those trapped within, starting with her younger brother Darrow and working their way up until the entire mass turned on itself and tore the Philanthropist to shreds. Arya would then take over the cult, reforming it into just a normal, positive community that some can still find till this day. Life lesson: don't join a cult in Warframe, they are ON2.
The trees have learned violence.
Oh, this Warframe is like a pixie and stuff. She can shrink, she controls nature. Oh God, her backstory is gonna rock me, isn't it? So Margulis, right? The Tenno's mom, she's the one that made transference technology, the thing that actually lets the Tenno control their Warframes. Well, she didn't work on it alone, at some point calling in an Archimedean by the name of Sylvana, who specialized in infestation research. The idea was that together they would make a second body for each Tenno that would help them channel their void powers for therapy purposes. Sylvana was a healer, one who despised war and violence. In fact, before being on the Transference Project, she was working on a way to lower the pollution levels on Earth. So when Baldass over here took over the Transference Project and used it to make Warframes, she wasn't very happy. This bitterness would come to a head when she was forced to make a Warframe herself. That Warframe being Titania, Sylvana's most hated creation. After this, Sylvana was like, nah, I'm done, stole a bunch of Orokin resources, and returned to Earth to use those resources to restore the wildlife there. She would create a beautiful forest known as the Silver Grove, and then use transference to take her consciousness out of her body and merge it with the trees themselves. You speak for the trees, I speak through the trees. We are not the same. The Orokin would eventually find out about her defection and then send a platoon of Dax soldiers to, well, burn the forest down. They couldn't really apprehend her at that point. And burn they did, but as the blaze kicked up, Sylvana felt a familiar presence. It was Titania, but she wasn't here to help the Dax, no. She was here to fight them. That's right, she had come to save the very creator that despised her. And you think you have mom issues, Titania's mom is literally a tree that hates her. Titania defeated the Dax, but at the cost of her own life. Like all Warframes, Titania is eventually brought back in the modern day through the events of the Silver Grove quest, but yeah, how about don't fight the forest? Also, fun fact, Titania is the same name as the Queen of the Fairies in the play A Midsummer Night's Dream, who is also married to the King of the Fairies named Oberon. So that joke of them playing Stardew Valley in their off time during the first section might be a closer ship than you think. Ship? Oh, Hydroid, no.
What the dog doing?
Voruna, aka Mama Wolf. I raised a wolf. I fought a wolf. I am a wolf. During our recap, I mentioned how the Orokin managed to achieve a kind of half immortality. One of the ways they did this was by using a process called continuity. Basically, whenever they got old, they would use continuity to transfer their consciousness into the body of a younger person. Some bodies were volunteers, some were not. Kuva was also used in this process. The thing from the Gara story, it's what actually allowed the mind transfer. Voruna was once a guardian of a temple where these continuity rituals took place. However, these rituals got the Void a little bit spicy, so every so often the Void would spit up some demons and stuff that Voruna would have to take care of. She would defend the tower from these threats alongside her pack of 4 wolves. Oh, also, the wolf heads on her armor, yeah, those weren't there at this point in the story. Anyways, after the fall of the Orokin, much like how Grendel hunted down Executor Karish, Voruna would try to hunt down another Executor named Tuval. To try and escape his fate, Tuval fled to the tower Voruna typically guarded to try and perform continuity on himself. However, this time he added a bit of spice to the mix. He brought with him a book known as the Grimoire, the prized diary of Big Al himself, containing many of his Void research notes. Using these notes, Tuval performed a perverted version of the continuity ritual in which he infused the Kuva used in the process with various extra Void energies. Presumably this would have given him superpowers or something. It wouldn't have been good. And because of this extra spice, the Void got wacky and just started spewing out a ton of evil manifestations, demons, problems, more than ever before. Voruna tried fighting through them, but as the battle waged on, her wolves began to fall one by one. But then, grief-stricken, and this is gonna sound very weird at first, she removed the heads of her wolves, charged the stand where Tuval was, pushed him out of the way, and doused her and the wolf heads she had in the Kuva Tuval was about to use. And remember me saying that Kuva could do a bunch of stuff? Well, this time around, it fused the wolf heads and their spirits to Voruna, giving us the walking metal album art we know today. And Tuval, let's just say he would meet an extremely similar fate to Karish as he became Wolf Chow. I guess executors are just tasty, I don't know.
But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge.
And here we have it, the final 2 Warframes on this list, and the last 2, well, there's something special. Throughout the full lore section, I have made several mentions to the Laverian, the Warframe museum that a lot of these tales come from. Ash, Atlas, Grendel, Ivara, all of these tales are still available to us because of the Laverian, or in actuality, because of Dante. See, in addition to being a Warframe, Dante was the main chronicler for the Laverian, a prolific writer who recorded these stories and more so that their memories would not fade. Because of this, he was a fast friend of the curator of the Laverian named Drusus, along with another man by the name Lloyd, aka the main assistant to Big Al. Because of his relationship with Lloyd, Dante was one of the people to hear about Big Al suddenly going missing one day, and that's something we'll talk more about in part 2 of Big Al's lore. Dante, being a man that craved knowledge, and thus one after my own heart, decided to try and get to the bottom of this by visiting Big Al's lab. There he discovered a group of necromechs. These were big robots that were initially designed to fight the sentients before Warframes were a thing. Oddly enough though, these mechs were acting a little bit hostile, all of them chanting in Void Tongue, which is the same language that Wally uses. In this madness, Dante found a copy of Big Al's Grimoire, the book from Voruna's backstory, and as the wrong-tongued words of the necromechs began to worm their way into his mind, he felt himself drawn to open the book, to look upon its pages, to pervert his mind with its profane knowledge. It was a trap laid by Wally, one that threatened to consume Dante's entire existence. He tried to resist until he heard the words of his friend Drusus, the Laverian curator. He said, "Dante, what you have found can never be brought forth. Parvos must never know of this." Yeah, that Parvos. While Parvos is a man that helped lift many up, he is also extremely crafty and potentially dangerous, constantly in search of more knowledge to better himself, no matter the cost to him or others. In the modern day, he's even trying to take the Laverian from Drusus so that he may consume any knowledge that it has. Drusus and now Dante know the potential dangers of Parvos finding out about the Grimoire's existence, so Dante lets go, allowing the book and thereby the man in the wall to take him. However, good old Wally didn't end Dante. Instead, he simply rewrote the fabric of Dante's very being, transported him amongst stars unknown, whispered endless eldritch teachings within his mind, and presumably stole his neck. All that so that the man in the wall may be known, so that it may continue to exist, so that it may continue to survive within Dante's mind. I'm not entirely quite sure what all that means, but it sounds like Dante went on a hell of a trip. And that is where the story unfortunately ends for the great writer of the Laverian, but there is one more Warframe still to discuss. One that truly shattered the mold. And with this, we end as we began, starting with the very first frame Excalibur, all the way to Excalibur Umbra. Picture this. You're a Warframe fan in the year 2015. The Nata quest releases. It's revealed that the Lotus is actually the daughter of Hunhao, leader of the Sentients. Intrigue begins to build, but at least things are still relatively simple. You're still controlling an unthinking, unfeeling Warframe. Flash forward to 2016, and the Second Dream and War Within quests have been released, revealing that this entire time, you've actually been playing as a magic space child called a Tenno that's been controlling the Warframes from a distance. Prior to the Second Dream, we couldn't play as the Tenno, so this was a huge thing. You get to customize and use your own Tenno in combat, and it adds a good chunk more to the lore, but at least the Warframes are still simple, unthinking, unfeeling, not an ethical quandary in sight. 2017 comes, and you get the Apostasy prologue, which shows the Lotus leaving with someone named Ballas, and you're not quite sure why, but that name just strikes a deep sense of rage within you that you don't have a ton of reasoning for yet. But again, Warframes are simple, just big hunks of steel that don't have memories or were once people or anything. Now comes 2018, and a new quest called the Sacrifice releases. You're excited, you boot up the game, you start to play through it, and oh god, that Warframe just moved. Oh, and it has an eye. Oh, and it's not happy. Oh no. Let me take you back to the old war, right before Ballas is about to defect to the Sentients. A Dax soldier learns of Ballas's impending betrayal, but before they can alert anyone, Ballas catches wind and subdues them. But instead of just eviscerating him, Ballas just had to put on a show. Ballas brings this soldier to a hospital, one day visiting him alongside the soldier's son, Iza. Ballas had removed the soldier's ability to speak or move, meaning all this man could do was look on in horror as the man he knew was about to betray all of them sat next to his very own son. Ballas would then strike up a game of Comey with the soldier. This game is based on the real-life board game Go, where the goal is to capture the pieces that your opponent puts down. However, during the game, Ballas speaks telepathically to the soldier, explaining that for every piece the soldier loses, that's another one of his family members that will be removed from life. And with game after game after game, mountains of chips begin to pile up, each one a nephew or a niece or brother, sister, father, mother, all of which are now condemned to oblivion. But when the final game draws to a close, the soldier can feel something inside him moving, something transforming him in the hospital bed. He can feel his skin hardening, his organs interlinking, his mind coming under the control of Ballas. The game was rigged from the start. From the moment he entered the hospital, Ballas had already injected him with the Helminth strain. It was just now taking effect and began turning him into a variant of the Excalibur Warframe. And as the transformation completes, the soldier can only hear one command from Ballas: end your son. And he can't refuse. However, it didn't end there, because Ballas had a little surprise for the soldier. Remember the transference bolts, the thing that helped the Tenno control the Warframes and kept the Warframes from acting out? Well, Ballas outfitted the soldier with a unique one called an umbral transference bolt. This bolt had one purpose, and that was to replay the memory of the soldier attacking his own son in his mind until the end of time. That was the punishment Ballas bestowed. After the fall of the Orokin, the soldier, now known as Umbra, would continue to hunt Ballas. In the modern day, at the beginning of the Sacrifice quest, Umbra finds Ballas, but is still unable to harm him because of the transference bolt, leading to him swiftly being destroyed by a transformed Lotus. The Tenno find Umbra's parts and rebuild him, but something happens, a strange side effect of the Umbral bolt. As established previously, when you build a Warframe in game, you're essentially creating a 3D copy of them, presumably without any of their memories or personality carrying over. Because of the Umbral transference bolt, Umbra retained his personality, or at least a part of it, meaning he could act completely independently of the Tenno. That's what you saw a moment ago. He goes rogue until the Tenno are finally able to perform transference on him. Doing this gives Umbra a sense of peace, and the two team up to fight Ballas. This quest was a shockwave for many people. There'd already been some snippets sort of addressing what Warframes might have been, but if I recall correctly, this was the first time a mainline quest actively showed it. Regardless, there were still a ton of people that thought Warframes were essentially robots, so this was insane to see. And while there are certainly a plethora of Warframes with tragic backstories, this isn't one that we read from a Laverian entry or learn about through hearsay. No, we got to live it. Throughout the sacrifice quest, the Tenno relive every memory. You relive every painful memory that Ballas bestowed on this man, just so you can maybe make it hurt a little bit less. And at the end of the day, after talking about 57 Warframes, maybe that's what all this was about. The Warframes are in many ways tortured beings that were seen as unnerving monsters by some of the common populace. Even some like Kullervo, Mirage, Protea faltered, fell, or were left broken by this universe. But at the same time, there is still light. Some are regarded as protectors and role models like Ashe, Inaros, and Nezha, while those like Styanax and Grendel face their foes head on, becoming champions of the people. Then you have those that changed with the times, like Lavos and Voruna, becoming stronger for whatever battles may lay ahead. The world of Warframe is an endlessly fractured place, constantly beset by conflict. Some like Harrow, Titania, Sevagoth, Citrine all gave their lives for others. And yet hidden amongst the darkness, you will still find compassion, love, things worth fighting for. Despite the overwhelming odds, the Tenno and their Warframes still continue to fight. With each quest completed, we mend a relationship, we save a child, we stop a horrendous plan, we lay a beaten soul to rest, all in the hopes that one day we can look at this ugly, broken thing called the Origin System and take its pain away. As the Lotus herself states, dream not of what you are, but of what you want to be. So come step into the void with us, Tenno, and use your Warframes to make your dreams a reality so we can help make this place just a little bit better, one day at a time. Okay, but what if we made a human version of Excalibur and called him Arthur? Get it, like King Arthur? Yeah!